just like sitting.
Record. Okay. Hello, hello. This is the ABC Team Huddle for October 5th, 2022. A little bit of a tighter timeline for myself today because the second week of the month is always the high deadline time, like days and days of proofing and editing and dealing with clients and questions and Dropbox issues, but that's what we do. We roll with it. So I wanted to make sure to cover any of the questions that you guys had first. And then depending on where those go and that direction, then we can take a couple of examples that I have ready. So any questions about the edits you've received or questions?
I've got a fantastic question.
Okay.
I'm over 40, so I do 2 spaces after the period. I know we don't, we do 1. Is there a way to do the entire file? Is there a way to just change the entire file at once?
There is.
Because I ran into that with one of the new transcriptions.
Okay, let me pull an example. I'm not sure if this one, we'll just use this as an example and we'll see what happens.
We can use whatever I uploaded 2 days ago because I'm sure there's a couple strays in there if there's an easy way to fix that.
For the, was that the HPC?
That was West Lynn. That was West Lynn.
Well, I'll just, since I've got this up as an example, I'll just say
whatever works.
So what you do is you just go to editing. Can everybody see okay?
Yeah.
Editing and find. And then what I'll do is I'll just put a period and 2 spaces. And it'll pull up, in this case, there's 3 places where there's double. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that does. I didn't think that was an option. I didn't think you could sort. I mean, it makes sense now, but I didn't think through punctuation you could search like that. That's cool.
So, yeah. And this, I'm just making sure we don't wrap it. Yeah. So there were 2 spaces there. So put that in a period and 2 spaces, and then you can also do the replace. So now I've got it down to 2, and then we just go up to replace. And it'll show you, even though it's kind of tricksy sometimes.
Trixie, are we going to be hobbitses now?
Yeah, that's right, hobbitses. And then I just add 1 space. So when I'm up here, I will make sure it's period, space, space.
Yep.
And then replace with what we want.
No, I've never done find and replace with punctuation. So
it's amazing, right? And
the obvious choice, but not the obvious choice.
Yeah. So there we go. Yeah. All done.
Right.
Good question. It's great when we have tools we can use.
Yeah. All right, quick question I have for you. I sent you an email. You may not have read it yet.
I did.
Did you?
Yeah.
I don't know why it came back. Why it was sent to me today, because I sent it. I think it went Thursday. It's listed. It's on Trello. You've got that. And you've got the.
Was that the South Fork one or the banks?
The bank.
Okay.
BCC, September 13th, 2022.
Yeah.
I think Maddie had done it and I proofed it and sent it to you, sent it back and sent the invoice, and I double checked it. It's there. I mean, it's there on the computer.
Oh, for the banks one, you mean?
Yeah.
Or the South Fork?
No, BCC.
Yes,
September
I've already
13th.
got it. I'm editing it as we speak.
Okay. So it was just a fluke.
Yeah, I guess so. I wasn't seeing a reply. I just found it.
Okay, that's cool. I didn't think so. I went back and checked it and I said, I'm pretty sure I did that. The last one, it just came in early because my trip got canceled. So we had a whole day. It gave me something to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that worked out perfect. We needed that because I am in the heat of doing those right now. Yeah.
And when are you going to start sending these out now for us to start proofing?
The next set of meetings.
Well, whatever you've got now that's being transcribed. Do you have a lot being transcribed that you're going to send out to the proofers now? Are we caught up or where are you? I'm just curious.
I'm just looking at Trello. So the Trello is probably the best place to look at that. Filed and processed by the proofers. Oh, let me share screen. files in process, excuse me, by the transcription team. So you can see these here. These are what are coming in or what's being worked on.
Okay.
So let's see.
Okay.
I have a question about Trello while we're on it.
Please.
So, I uploaded the HPC 28th meeting this morning, and I didn't move it right away, which I know I'm supposed to do. But would it have been moved back when Chris got it anyway?
Yeah.
It would have. Okay. All right.
But you're dragging it over to here, lets him know it's complete, and then jump on it and, you know, move it back is what ideally I'd like to happen. I know we haven't, I don't think we've had that discussion formally.
Yeah, now let me add to that. I was never tagged on that. So you'd sent me the email about it and making sure we had a quick turnaround time, but I am not, that's not showing up in my Trello. Fortunately, I got a notification from that Claire had posted about it, but I'm here, but it's not in an assigned, it's not assigned to me, which was kind of weird.
So, because your name wasn't added as a member is what you're saying.
Right. So fortunately, yeah, you communicated. So I was on, I knew about it, and then I had looked for it, found it, said something about it. So I guess that's where it continued to update me on it, but I was never assigned that. So, you know, it's somebody didn't click a button somewhere, but just so you know. Probably
me. And so if you see, I mean, if you know that it's your file, you know that you're on it, just add yourself. It's no problem.
Okay. No, that's fine. I wasn't sure on who did what. My name does not have, my name starts with a C, but I don't have a C level password on this deal. So I hesitate to do stuff like that. But I did want to let you know, because I don't know how that happened, but fortunately, like I said, you had said it was coming down the pike and we needed to turn it around quickly. And I saw what Claire had uploaded it today, and I was like, oh, it's a perfect day for this, because I had just gotten done picking on everybody I needed to pick on.
Well, and this might be a good thing too, because maybe I hesitated because I didn't want to complicate things for Claire, but you know, probably with HPC, I'll just tag both of you, and that way, Chris, you'll be able, when obviously Claire will do the initial transcription, but that way Chris can track where she's at with that. Yeah, because now we're moving into Hillsborough. It's a faster turnaround.
That's what you'd said.
So we've been kind of reasonably, well, we had a good reason to be slack before, but now I want to pick this one back up. It's one of the fastest ones. So, so yeah, good. I appreciate you bringing that up. Anything else while we're on Trello?
No, that was the only thing, is I didn't see anything, because I guess I was caught short on Monday. I didn't look last week because of the hurricane, and quite frankly, I had some other windmills to tilt at, and I hadn't thought about it Sunday because I was busy. And then Monday morning I got up early and I went, you know what? I probably ought to check that. Oh, okay. Got something to do. And but that's the only thing I would say, is just making sure that we're tagged in it, so that we can get up on it. And then this happened to just be, this is just a fluke. So just letting you know about that.
Well, and the nice thing too is by
Claire's really good.
You at the same time. Yeah, she is.
Thank you. Well, I hope you still think that after I actually think I had just done a training with Paula. So I think this one is pretty clean, only their audio is still a mess. So there's a couple places where I'm just like, well, I
was, and then there's a couple of them that are making up words. And Grillo gets off the trail and he starts wandering, and then he's out in the desert with the Jews for 40 years. And then
he does say Katie bar the door in this meeting. What else does he say?
Hills of beans.
Yes. That's
I'm like, this is professional colloquialisms. Thanks.
And then I think, do I change that? No, I'm not gonna. That's what he sounds like.
Paula says to leave it in.
Yeah. When in doubt,
so I just leave it in. I just try to clean up what he puts around it. And
Yeah, there
I
was a
think
couple of pieces in there that just, you can't make heads or tails of it. The architect got off the rails on at one point, or the planner or whomever it was got off the rails in one thing. He was describing some weird stuff and all this esoteric mumbo jumbo about the design. You had a note.
Oh.
I don't know where he went with this, and I was like, God, I heard it 5 times and I don't know anymore.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great thing. So I will put that at the top of our list for training next week.
Okay.
Then we'll talk through that, because, a lot of the persona with architects and designers is the esoteric, right? They're just trying to
Artsy.
pluck you into their world, And so some of that, even though it's fluffy,
Yes.
it's required, it's still necessary. And again, we go back to, and we've had this discussion before about like just removing our emotions and ourselves from the audit, where we're just responsible for what they say, which can be challenging. And I think especially with Griot, but we have one on probably almost every single board. I don't know, it attracts that personality, but where they'll just start like 5 little rabbit trails, and then you have to pull them all back together and make them, in order, which is
to Alice Richmond at West Lynn. Oh my God.
and she
She
has a
needs
very
to
heavy accent.
down the gin bottle before she attends a meeting. Oh my Lord. I listened to that. That's like, this is a hell of a way to start a meeting with this. What
Yeah,
what have
I'm
I
sorry to
listened
hearing
to?
that. Well, she's also the chair of the advisory board for South Fork Water Board, which Aline has proved, but she did not happen to do public comment at that time. So usually we have her for 2 meetings.
And
Well,
I think she sounds like she's a legitimate concerned citizen too. It's like she has
she's
valid
very
points. Boy, she
involved.
wanders
Yeah.
through the garden a bit. Good
Yeah,
heavens.
she's very involved, very spry. I think she just celebrated her 89th birthday. She is a go-getter.
Oh,
Like
well,
that
there
woman
also
just
seems
moves.
to be one of those in every, like the concerned citizen,
Yeah.
like for Hillsborough, it's Dirk.
Yep.
Dirk shows up and Dirk
Yep. Dirk Newsom.
talks. Yep. And
yeah.
then for, who is it for, like, oh, there's a couple of women in
Teresa.
Waco.
Yeah, she used to
Terry,
be a
what's her
council-
name or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, they come to everything. So
Yeah.
I'm glad I know the names of these people, but not the names of the people in my own town.
That's
We show up. I don't know who they are.
City council meeting, you'll never be the same again. Okay, so as far as I'm struggling. Let's see. I just finished the Wilsonville Planning Commission, which was a lot of work session. Claire, that's not necessarily appropriate to you or the work Chris does at this point. This is what I try to, I guess it is beneficial for the whole team. I know I am getting on with Valentine in the morning to go through this all the way through. Well, let's just take a look. How's that? I'm just gonna, so forgive me while I move and shuffle things around a minute. Oh, come on.
Oh,
Right.
it's Mesba in Wilsonville. That's the person who has a lot of rabbit trails in
He
Wilsonville.
does.
Yeah.
But he's also has experience in planning and engineering, and he has a lot of good stuff to say and very commentary. So it's important to include him, even though he's challenging to wrap up and make it, trackable to the layperson. It is good to capture his information. So I'm just gonna, okay. All right, so Wilsonville is going through a huge, several different legislative plans. And so one of them is this neighboring airport. And it is outside of the city's jurisdiction, but they're trying to get all of this planning in place so that, when development happens there, because they're an affected jurisdiction, they can go comment. That's way more information than you need. However, one of the things that I find from time to time is a transcriptionist will introduce the topic and then exactly explain what they stated. So in this case, if you can see, okay, I got it. Well, I retained it. So this is just on the master. I'm just gonna make this big so it's easier for you guys. Okay, so the cross out was the original. And she said she briefly explained the work of the project and the difficulties its team faced. Well, then that's all I need to know. What I did in the final was she was talking, there were just two things she wanted to note. So rather than putting it in a summary paragraph and then explaining the details, or excuse me, a summary phrase, and then explaining all the details, we just go right to the details. I see this also, I will do a new share also with the, this kind of same issue came up with the bank's city council meeting. Let me make sure I got the correct one. Too many files on my computer today.
I was there a few hours ago.
Well, I don't know where that went. Just a moment. I'm just going to stop share. Okay.
Claire, are there any strange smells or noises emanating from downstairs yet?
No, because mom doesn't allow television, but dad does. So that's
Oh,
Well, I was more concerned about dinner.
oh, he's much better at cooking than I am. Much better. I am very Irish in my cooking style. Everything is boiled to within an inch of its life. So meat is always very, very dry, that sort of thing.
Well, I'm grateful for my husband as well. He's an exceptional cook, and today he has been waiting on me hand and foot because I've had so many deadlines going on that he's made dinner. He's rocking it. He's definitely doing more than I would probably in a normal day. So I'm very grateful. Okay. So can you see the bank's September?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to scroll down. One thing that they always do is they go through their reports. And so sometimes it's a fine line between they presented the report and then I'll say like highlighting, they highlighted areas of the report. Sometimes transcriptionists will say they presented the library report and then they end up typing out everything that they presented that's also in the staff, it's also in the library report. So unless there's new information, we can simply say they presented the library report. And then in this case, there was with the following additional comments. Is that clear as mud?
So the additional comments cover items that weren't in the report.
Right.
Because I know that I get caught up on staff reports and I always put too much of the staff report in. So this week I just put in that she presented the staff report and then and these were the three things because she said these were the three things I'm going to go over in my staff report.
Mm-hmm.
And when I looked at the timestamp afterwards, it was a 15-minute period that I've just got covered by 5 lines and it's making me really nervous.
Yeah,
well,
but to me, are you talking about the one that you just did?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, to me, I listened and it sounded succinct and I was like, wow, that's really good. And it seemed like it was spot on, which means Paula's going to hate it.
No, I think from what you just shared, I think you're spot on.
Okay.
And that's one of the cheats I talk about is because oftentimes they will introduce what they're going to say. I'm going to cover A, B, and C. And then they go on ad nauseum about A, B, and C. In Hillsborough, West Lynn, some of these, most all of our cities are moving to that, except for Wilsonville. That is all you need for the staff report. They just want us to think because it's already there. In that case, you know, what you said was about just grabbing those few concise sentences. Great. The only thing you would add, and it doesn't sound like this applies in this case, is if they had a change in the record, you know, the applicant submitted a different map or.
Okay, that did happen. So so I did have to end up that David McElnay, who's also difficult to understand. She hands over to him at one point to explain their Fitwell certification, which is like their sustainability thing, but not really.
Mhm.
And he, of course, has one slide which says nothing on it of what he says. So I condensed, tried to make what he said summarized, not too summarized. And then it goes back to her and she addresses the third thing she said she was going to address. And then she said, you have to note there were text corrections made to condition of approval 47, which were not, they didn't change the condition of approval. They just corrected typos. So I put that in there.
Yep, perfect.
Okay.
You're a rock star, Claire.
Well, it just made me nervous. And I was like, well, that's a paragraph, 15 minutes. Didn't seem right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just used to typing it all out. So.
Right. So back to kind of the question and, you know, the kids area project in this instance, this probably could just be deleted, but I just used it as an introduction, you know, that this was finished, but the celebration was canceled. So in the staff report, which you see here on the right, they're saying, you know, this project is finished and they're excited about it and they're thanking everybody. And then the celebration is noted, the celebration is noted over here under upcoming events, but it was canceled because of the power outage we had, long story. So, you know, I kind of did a lead in so the reader would know what we're talking about. So the material that's in this, she presented the library report. So I didn't go over the upcoming events. She's talked about that. I kind of cinched some things down as far as what was stated, but you know, she talked about the community survey, which is also in here, but what she says is nothing, it's not here. So I still had to introduce the community survey because she had, you know, that's where these, you know, the following additional comments.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I'm still working through this one. So that's really kind of all I have. I'm just working through some of these edits, and I finished the Wilsonville Planning Commission earlier today. So that's it. Anything else, you guys? Sorry, I feel like I've just been in a daze with you.
This did prompt one question going into this file that Claire finished and I'm working on now. And it's kind of a weird question, but bear with me. And Claire, in your, I assume your edits in blue, or some of your changes or questions in blue in parentheses, there was the buildings in the community center. It's purple, then it's mauve, then it's pink. Do you remember when you had that?
Oh, yes, because he refers to something as purple. He refers to 4-story buildings as being purple, and I was looking at the slideshow and those are not purple. Yeah,
and neither here nor there, but my question then, Paula, is they're in something purpley. But it seemed as though in one of our conversations that you were referencing when we're talking about slides, it seemed as though the color was pertinent, whether it was purple, mauve, pink, whatever, but it seemed as though it was pertinent. It seems like you had told us that it was pertinent, but I wasn't sure if there's a best practice for describing that when they're talking about a slide and the slide is available to us and it is the color in the slide is not going to be the color of we're not talking about an existing building. It's a project that's still to be developed.
Gotcha.
Is there a best practice for that?
I just pulled that up. So let me see. Oh, there we go.
We're about probably an hour in on that. on that file.
Yeah, it's the timestamp is like 5841.
Right.
Got it. All right. So this blue is what you're kind of questioning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he goes through the colors because he's talking about what he was trying to say. I'm inferring what he was trying to say was their design philosophy of putting the most dense buildings fronting Cornelius and then moving out to the less dense. So he starts referring to them by colors, and he refers to the 4 buildings that are 4-story as purple. And then when there is purple buildings, he got himself all confused because he like flipped the slides from what staff had shown so that north was to the right and south was to the left. So he just got himself confused, I think, but they're not purple. They're like pink. They're the PowerPoint pink.
And so is this 5841 kind of like
Yes.
inaudible or something? Or
I was just putting where he said the comment.
Yeah, that's where he's going into colors, specifically referencing to the colors in the slide. And again, to Claire's point, you know, it gets a little convoluted, and I haven't gone, I just went through my first time. I have to go back through and dig through everything else, but that was one question. And since we're discussing that,
yeah.
Number one, there is always the question of what's purple to me is lavender to the next guy.
Exactly.
Depending on how he votes. And it's gray to somebody else.
Right.
So, you know, how do we best play that? And then in this case, when it's clearly a mistake, how best to play that too?
So what I would do, just without the privilege of the audio,
Yeah.
the slide. So do they say on slide 14?
He just says the slide.
Okay, so I would, if again, like, you know, trying not to, we know which, it's obvious you guys know what slide he's referencing, right? So because they don't state it, I put it down here. And then the village center overview. Did he overview the village center?
No. He starts that slide by saying this village center overview shows the north to the right and the south to the left.
Correct.
After telling his story about the first thing they tell you in architecture school is that north is up, but not here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to confuse you and myself by making north to the right.
But if he's calling it purple audio and he's saying it's purple, why wouldn't you just put purple in there? Because as someone said, you know, purple, there are a myriad of colors of purple, but what I see, what you see, what someone else sees, is it pink? Is it mauve? Is it purplish, purpley, you know?
And then it is distinguished from yellow and blue.
Yeah.
And other ones. So
because there are purple ones. The community buildings are purple, which is
Purple,
the last
purple.
thing. Yeah, they're
They're
very
real purple.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I don't know if this is a case of where you just put purple and then put the timestamp next to it and
generally my go-to, I think this might have been in the last training of the training report, is I just eliminate all the colors.
Okay.
I just say, you know, and again, without the privilege of the audio, the village center overview displayed the proposed buildings in the development. I don't know, I'm just kind of throwing it out here. He noted this slide was oriented, so north was to the right and south was to the left. There were four buildings, the 4 4-story buildings were live work units. The 3-story garden apartments were in scale with the residential units, maybe.
He just said residential.
Okay, because it could be residential zone or residential units. So it needs something.
I think it's going to be units because
Yeah.
later one of the designers talks about the residential units that will
That
be,
makes sense. And they usually try to match, they're looking at being
Okay.
congruent with the neighboring
Right.
zones
yeah,
across the
Okay.
street in shaded some forms to the very top of the north with future homes. So he goes with future homes to the very top in the north. Well, the top sounded like it could be east, west. Okay.
the top was
The
west.
the townhouses fronted on the street and would have garages.
Would
in the
have
back,
garage and
with,
yeah.
or with and have garages in the back. The development also included 4 community buildings, 1 for each block development. Each block of the development for each block development.
They call it,
They call it block development, but in this case, what they're inferring, or what the listener can infer, or the viewer can infer, is that each of these 4 blocks in this video, in this PowerPoint slide, is each of them has a community building.
Okay, so the village center encompasses like 4 city blocks.
Yes.
8
Okay,
city
that
blocks.
makes-
It's actually,
Eight,
well,
okay.
it's not 8 specifically, but it's a very long block. From one end of Cornelius to the other will be 750 feet.
Okay,
So it's very long. So, and then it's up the middle. It's got 1 road up the middle, which is DeLine. And so it's 4 blocks. Each of them is about whatever, 325 feet or whatever, but that I guess is 2 city blocks.
yeah,
technically speaking.
okay. So that helps. So removing the colors, does that help? Just,
Yeah.
we're just.
No, I think it
taking
does, and
off
that
the-
answers my question,
Yeah.
because it was so the way, and I thought Claire did a good job, don't get me wrong, but
Oh, yeah.
the way it was rambled on about, yeah, he confused himself because he was trying to be a little smart boy, and then he got down, we're talking about design philosophies, and just, yeah, that block there was frustrating to go through. I'm looking at the damn slide going, wait a minute, hold on.
Why don't you just say this?
Yeah,
I think they
Just-
all got confused because Grillo had gone on before this about the lack of pedestrian, and he goes off on a tangent just
Yeah.
about the lack of pedestrian crossings, sounding very angry and recognizing it's not the applicant's fault. There are no pedestrian crossings, but he gets back on the mic and says, I'm speaking into the mic. I want it to be known that I take issue with the fact that there are no. And so I think everybody was just a little,
Tense,
yeah.
kind of put people on edge.
yep.
Yeah, well, that was a great question. I hope that helped answer it, and I guess
No, that clarified a lot for me, because it's sort of the same breakthrough with staff reports where we can congeal some of this down and boil
Yes.
some of this down. And so, yeah, but it's the same thing, because that particular audio is heavily dependent upon viewing the slide. And
Yeah.
then we get into not only the mistake in color, but also the choices of color. And is it yellow? It's to me, it's more of a burnt yellow.
Yeah.
But
Can I ask really quickly on work sessions?
Sure.
So work sessions, we don't need to identify the particular commissioner or counselor or,
You on Lake O?
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
we can just say with questions, additional questions and comments, additional questions from counselors and comments from staff as follows.
Let me pull that up. Okay, no, she did not do a good job. Yes, that's the short answer.
Okay,
I was trying to find my health profile. Oh, I know how to do that. Bam. Sometimes the computers just don't like you playing around.
I'm getting a little afraid of mine, actually. I think it listens to me and
mine got a little out of line today, and as soon as I started cussing like a mad sailor, it started working much more efficiently. So just keep that in mind.
I'm
especially
really
if you're-
afraid to try that. I'm
Well,
Catholic, so I have to go to confession for things like that. And I
You're
don't
gonna
have
feel
the
guilty
time.
anyhow.
And
You
well,
have
that's
children
very,
nearby.
I mean,
that's
you're
very
already gonna
true.
feel guilty, and your husband's got the TV on, so you can sit up there and mutter under your
That's
breath
true.
and be like, look here,
That's
If she's
true.
got
Of course.
children involved, be quiet.
Oh, they've heard worse. It's terrible to say, but they have. They really have.
They all have. They all have.
Not with my
Okay.
upbringing. My mother was she was a saint. I didn't hear her cuss until I was about 28.
Oh, don't forget, I'm right on this computer with you. I can hear you.
She made up for all that cussing when I turned 28.
Oh, yeah, right.
Okay, so here's an example of removing names in a work session. So in this case, some of the questions that they asked, it was challenging to try to meld those into, like, in this instance, Mr. Green responding. We just ended up typing out the questions, and then we identify the speakers that are responding to that particular question or additional things from staff. But you don't need to identify, especially the commissioners, unless, in this case, Chair Heberlein, and then there's one in here with Medsba that goes on right here, where, and this was done kind of on the fly. I probably could have finessed this a little more, but there was just a long work session and there was just a lot of material. So I erred toward identifying the names later when it was more of a comment, opinionated view versus a simple Q&A, like a yes, no answer, or, describe something for me. That's just an answer or response to a question versus kind of a philosophical, why are we doing this? Because that's another thing with a work session. It's a brainstorming session, right? And them offering these fluffy opinions or these narrative comments about philosophical things are important to the record, because those comments kind of inform the discussion and might take them in a certain direction.
Okay, but if they're just asking questions for clarity, like I'm remembering a LACO work session I did on like a crime report, and I had, which I'll never forget, transcribed the entire thing, which was 45 minutes long, that whole section. And Paul is like, so here's what that could look like. And it was 2 lines. Because most of that, they were interrupting to ask clarifying questions, not making comments. And so if they're just asking clarifying questions, I don't need to identify them. I don't need to I can just state the question, even if they've got fluff surrounding it. If the fluff is extraneous, take that out and just, this is the question. Okay.
I find also, let me see, sometimes with a clarifying question also, you just need to, you can just fold it into, the response. I'm trying to find, there was not a lot of good examples in this meeting today. Most of this was all commentary. Okay. Oh, here we go. Confirmed. So when there is more of a clarifying question, you can just say they confirmed the question, with the additional responses. So that kind of gets you out of the he said, she said. And then you don't have these little tiny short questions necessarily.
Okay.
And same with car, they'd ask a question here about, well, can't you just install 8-inch lines? Yes, we can install 8-inch lines to match. And then they went on with their reasoning.
Okay.
So it can be a little bit of both, which I'm sure is just so clear.
No, it does make things, especially because I want to not race through LACO, but I got an app on my phone, like a better stopwatch app, because I really want to time myself.
Good. I'm always
see how I'm actually doing.
Happening. Yes.
So maybe that'll help me too. Like if I'm keeping better track of how long things took me, it would also help if people stopped interrupting me with non-life-threatening issues. So.
Good luck.
Well, that's all I had today, unless you guys have specific questions.
No, that's perfect. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
And I hope the rest of HPC is okay.
No, it's good to go. It I don't have any problems with you at all. It's just, you go through this and you read it and it's a second set of eyes.
Yep.
And the inaudibles and the things like that, it is what it is. But no, I don't know enough to be able to be pissy and moany towards you. I know you're doing a great job. That's Paula's job to be mad at us.
Well, I think again, Catholic, so I always come from the point of view where I have done something wrong. I just have to wade through it and find out what it was. So something's gonna land me in purgatory for a long time. So.
Clearing it up. You'll find it. Just keep
It's not
going.
going to be your transcription stuff.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
It may be what happens when you go downstairs here shortly, but it won't be the transcription is from today.
Somebody's talking to you. You got somebody in the background talking to you.
They're all, I don't know what they're doing now.
How many
But I should-
do you have? How many children do you have?
We have 4 kids.
4. Okay,
Yeah.
I love you. Okay.
Oh, well, I'm one of 7 and I have a sister with 6 and a sister with 5. So I'm like the lightweight,
Oh, geez, you're nothing.
I'm an only child of 2 only children.
Oh. So
And you have an only child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Family reunions is snap.